I was 34 years old when my life imploded in the most unexpected way. As a software developer in Boston with a stable job and what I thought was a perfect 5-year marriage to Amanda, I never imagined I would discover her year-long affair with James, her boss. What shocked everyone was not the affair itself, but how I responded. I completely ghosted her, without a single word of confrontation. Her public meltdown at my workplace and vicious social media campaign painted me as the villain. Before I continue this story, let me know where you are watching from in the comments, and hit that like and subscribe button if you have ever had to make a tough choice to protect yourself. I still remember the first time I met Amanda. It was at my college friend Brian's housewarming party 7 years ago. I had just landed my job as a software developer at a growing tech company in Boston. With my traditional values instilled by my parents, who shared a rock-solid 40-year marriage, I was looking for something meaningful, not just another casual relationship. Amanda walked into that party wearing a blue dress and a confident smile. She worked as a marketing executive at a major retail corporation, ambitious and driven in a way that immediately attracted me. We started talking about our favorite hiking trails around New England, and discovered we both shared a passion for authentic Thai food and classic film noir movies. The connection felt instant and genuine. "You know what I love about coding?" I asked her that night. "There is always a clear solution if you look hard enough. Relationships should be the same way." She laughed and said, "That kind of black and white thinking will get you in trouble, Saul." Little did I know how prophetic those words would become. Our romance moved quickly after that night. We saw each other nearly every weekend, taking day trips to coastal towns, cooking elaborate meals together, and staying up late discussing our dreams. Amanda wanted to reach executive level before turning 40, while I talked about eventually starting my own software company focused on accessibility tools. We both wanted children, a house with a yard, and summers spent traveling through Europe. 18 months after we met, I proposed during a sunrise hike up Mount Monadnock. She said yes, immediately, tears streaming down her face. The wedding was small but beautiful, just 50 guests, including our closest friends and family members, at a restored barn venue in Vermont. Her father gave a touching speech about finding your true partner, and I genuinely believed we had. We bought our first home in suburban Boston 6 months later. A modest colonial with 3 bedrooms that needed updating but had good bones, as Amanda liked to say. We spent weekends painting walls and installing new kitchen cabinets, imagining which room would eventually become a nursery. We planned to start trying for children after our 3rd anniversary, giving us time to advance in our careers first. Our life together seemed perfect from the outside. Weekly game nights with friends, romantic weekend getaways, to bed and breakfasts in Maine, and supporting each other through career challenges. When Amanda missed out on a promotion she had worked toward for months, I took her to a spa weekend to help her regroup. When I struggled with a difficult project at work, she brought me coffee and listened patiently as I talked through coding problems. The first signs of trouble appeared so gradually I almost missed them. Around our 2nd anniversary, Amanda started staying later at the office. Initially, it was once or twice a week, but soon it became standard for her to return home after 9 p.m., sometimes closer to midnight. She explained her team was pitching for several major accounts and the competition was fierce. "This could mean a director position for me. If we land these clients," she would say, dropping her purse by the door and kicking off her heels. "I just need to put in the extra hours for a few months." Those few months stretched into half a year. Along with the late nights came an increasing number of networking events and industry conferences where spouses were supposedly not welcome. I noticed she had developed a new friendship group from work that I rarely met. When I suggested joining her for drinks with these colleagues, she would find reasons why it would be awkward or inconvenient. Our intimacy began to wane as well. Where we once could not keep our hands off each other, we now went weeks without physical connection. Amanda would come home exhausted, shower immediately, and be asleep before I could even initiate a conversation. When we did have sex, it felt mechanical, like she was mentally elsewhere. I made excuses for all of these changes. Her job was demanding. She was on a promotion track that required extra effort. Perhaps we were just settling into the comfortable phase of marriage that happens after the honeymoon period ends. Instead of confronting these issues directly, I tried being more attentive. I planned surprise date nights, sent flowers to her office, and tried to create space for her to talk about whatever might be bothering her. Nothing seemed to bridge the growing distance between us. The first concrete suspicious incident occurred on a Tuesday evening in April. Amanda had texted that she would be working late again. Around 10 p.m., I was doing laundry and emptying her coat pockets when I found a receipt from Sorellina, an upscale Italian restaurant downtown. The bill was over $300 for two people with two expensive bottles of wine. When she came home that night, I casually asked how work had gone. Brutal, she sighed. We ordered sandwiches to the conference room and worked straight through until now. I waited until the next morning to mention the receipt. Her response came smoothly. Too smoothly. Oh, that was an unexpected client dinner. Marcus from legal asked me to join when our contact from Westfield Corporation showed up unannounced. I forgot to mention it because we went straight back to the office afterward to prepare the presentation materials. The explanation made sense logically, but something felt off. For one thing, she had specifically mentioned ordering sandwiches to the office. For another, the receipt showed a 9 p.m. dinner reservation, which meant they would have been at the restaurant until at least 11 p.m. A week later, my friend Tom pulled me aside during our basketball game. Hey man, I thought Amanda was working late last Thursday, but I saw her at Ostra with some guy. Looked pretty cozy. I immediately defended her. That must have been a work dinner. She mentioned meeting with a client. Tom gave me a look of concern. The guy had his hand on hers, Saul. And it was definitely not her boss. I know what James looks like from your holiday party. I accused Tom of trying to cause problems in my marriage and left the game early. We stopped speaking after that, another friendship sacrificed at the altar of my denial. Looking back, I cannot believe how blind I was to what was happening right in front of me. Feeling guilty about my suspicions, I bought Amanda an expensive bracelet she had admired months earlier. When I gave it to her, her reaction was strange. Instead of excitement, she seemed almost uncomfortable, as though my gift triggered guilt rather than appreciation. You did not need to do this, Saul, she said quietly, putting it back in the box after barely looking at it. I wanted to. You have been working so hard lately. She looked away. I have not been very present lately, have I? For a moment, I thought she might confess something. Instead, she kissed me quickly and made an excuse about needing to prepare for a morning meeting. The bracelet remained in its box unworn. As months passed, Amanda's behavior became increasingly suspicious. She added a password to her phone, something she had never done before. When calls came in, she would step outside or into another room speaking in hushed tones I could not overhear. Weekend work emergencies became common, pulling her away from plans we had made sometimes minutes before we were set to leave. I began noticing other details too. An unfamiliar cologne scent lingering on her clothes. New lingerie in her drawer that I had never seen her wear. A sudden interest in fitness that had her joining a gym closer to her office rather than the one in our neighborhood. Her entire wardrobe seemed to upgrade overnight, with designer clothes replacing her previous mid-range brands. When I commented on a particularly expensive-looking dress, she claimed it was borrowed from her coworker Diana for an important presentation. Whenever I tried to discuss our future or plan our long-delayed trip to Italy, Amanda would change the subject or give non-committal responses. Let us see where things stand next quarter became her standard reply. I started documenting these inconsistencies in a private journal, feeling slightly crazy for doing so. Was I becoming paranoid? When I attempted to discuss the state of our relationship, Amanda would expertly deflect, either by starting an argument about something unrelated or claiming exhaustion from work. My investigation deepened as my suspicions grew. I reviewed our joint credit card statements, finding charges at hotels on nights Amanda claimed to be working late. The pattern was unmistakable once I looked for it. Hotel charges appeared approximately twice monthly, always on weeknights, when she said she was at the office. One evening I drove by her workplace at 9:30 p.m., a time when she should have been there according to her text. Her car was not in the parking garage. I tried 2 more times over the following weeks, with the same result. Amanda missed my parents' 40th anniversary celebration due to a mandatory strategic planning session that could not be rescheduled. The following day, one of her colleagues posted photos from a restaurant opening that clearly showed Amanda in attendance, smiling with a glass of champagne in hand. When confronted with these discrepancies, Amanda became defensive and angry. Are you checking up on me now? Following me. That is controlling behavior, Saul. I saw the photos on Facebook. You were not at work. That was after the planning session. It ended earlier than expected, but by then it was too late to drive 3 hours to your parents' event. I needed to decompress after a stressful day. She made it sound so reasonable, that I found myself apologizing for questioning her. Later, I realized this was gaslighting in its purest form, making me doubt my own perceptions and feel guilty for having legitimate concerns. The devastating discovery came on an ordinary Sunday morning. Amanda had gone for a training session at her gym, and I was using our shared laptop to check email. She had apparently forgotten to log out of her personal account. There in her inbox was an email from James, with the subject line, "Miss you already." My hand trembled as I clicked on it. What I found was far worse than I had imagined. Not a single flirtatious exchange or a momentary lapse in judgment, but hundreds of messages in a thread stretching back over a year. The emails contained explicit content, detailing their physical relationship, loving messages, discussing their real connection, compared to our boring marriage, and worst of all, detailed plans for their future together after divorcing. Me. They had been calculating the timing precisely. Amanda and James were waiting for my upcoming promotion, which would include a substantial salary increase. They discussed how this would affect her potential divorce settlement. Once Saul gets the senior developer position, we should wait another 3 months for it to be reflected in the financial disclosures Amanda had written. My lawyer friend says that will establish the new income level for support calculations. James responded. Smart thinking. No rush anyway. I enjoy our little secret. In another exchange, they laughed about how oblivious I was. He actually apologized to ME last night for being suspicious, Amanda wrote, then gave me that ugly bracelet as a guilt gift. I almost felt bad for him. I read every message, taking screenshots as I went. The physical symptoms of shock set in quickly. My hands went cold. My stomach knotted painfully. I found myself struggling to breathe normally. Several of our mutual friends apparently suspected the affair but had said nothing to me. Amanda mentioned in one email that my friend Greg had seen them together at a hotel bar but promised to stay out of it. Another message referenced a close call when my cousin spotted them at a restaurant in a neighboring town. I took 3 sick days following this discovery, claiming a severe stomach virus while I processed what I had learned. Amanda seemed relieved by my absence, likely giving her more freedom to be with James. During those days, I cycled through every emotion imaginable. Heartbreak so intense, it felt physical. Rage that made my entire body shake. Humiliation knowing others had seen what I could not. Initially, I considered the typical responses: confrontation, marriage counseling, a desperate attempt to win her back. But as the calculated nature of their betrayal became clearer, my feelings crystallized into something colder and more resolute. This was not a momentary weakness or a relationship that had developed unexpectedly. This was a year-long campaign of lies, manipulation, and financial calculation. The Amanda I had loved did not exist. The trust was not merely broken, it was systematically destroyed through thousands of deliberate choices made day after day. In that moment of clarity, I understood that any confrontation would only bring more lies. Tears, perhaps. Promises that would mean nothing. Or worse, the satisfaction of a dramatic scene that would feed into her narrative of being the victim of my controlling behavior. I made a decision that would eventually divide all who knew us. I would simply disappear from her life without a single word of explanation beyond the evidence of her betrayal. A clean break that would deny her the closure of confrontation or the drama of reconciliation attempts. It felt like the only way to protect what remained of my dignity and sanity. My exit strategy required careful planning. During lunch breaks, I consulted with a divorce attorney who specialized in cases involving infidelity. Though Massachusetts is a no-fault divorce, state evidence of affairs can sometimes impact property division and other settlements. I provided the lawyer with all the screenshots and documentation I had collected. This is quite comprehensive, the attorney said, reviewing my evidence. It clearly establishes the timeline and nature of the relationship. The financial planning discussions between them could be particularly relevant to the court. I secured a 2-week vacation from work without telling Amanda. My supervisor Tim was understanding when I explained I needed personal time for family issues, though I did not share specifics. Next, I found and leased a modestly priced 1-bedroom apartment in Somerville, far enough from our home in Newton to avoid accidental encounters, but still within reasonable commuting distance to my office. Opening separate bank accounts at a different financial institution was my next step. I transferred exactly half of our savings, leaving her portion untouched, to avoid accusations of financial impropriety. I made copies of all important documents, family photographs, and irreplaceable keepsakes from my side of the family. I created a new email address, purchased a prepaid phone with a different number, and prepared to digitally disconnect from my old life. Throughout all of these preparations, I maintained normal behavior at home. I continued our routine dinner conversations about mundane topics. I watched television beside her in the evenings. I even planned a fictional work conference for myself 3 weeks in the future to avoid suspicion. The timing aligned perfectly when Amanda announced she would be attending a 3-day marketing conference in Chicago. This gave me the window I needed to execute my plan. The morning she left for her flight, I kissed her goodbye as normal. "Have a great trip. Learn something interesting," I said casually. "I will bring you back one of those deep dish pizzas you like," she replied, wheeling her suitcase toward the waiting Uber. That was the last time I would see her face to face for 6 months. As soon as her car pulled away, I began methodically moving essential belongings to my new apartment. Clothes, electronics, books, personal items that held sentimental value. I was careful to take only what was undisputedly mine, leaving jointly owned furniture and household items untouched. I even left behind several valuable possessions to avoid any appearance of taking more than my fair share. I could have waited until after my promotion came through the following month, which would have meant a significantly better financial position for me. But the thought of spending even 30 more days living this lie was unbearable. The financial hit was worth my freedom and mental health. With my attorney's help, I prepared formal divorce filing papers, with the evidence of infidelity attached in a sealed envelope. On the final day of Amanda's conference, I placed these papers on our bed, along with my wedding ring positioned carefully on top. No personal note accompanied these items. The evidence would speak for itself. Before leaving the house for the last time, I took one final look around at the life we had built. The kitchen where we had cooked countless meals. The living room where we had hosted game nights with friends. The spare bedroom we had painted pale yellow in anticipation of a child who would never exist. I felt a strange sense of calm as I locked the door behind me. Back at my new apartment, I completed the digital disconnection. I blocked Amanda's number on my new phone, changed all my passwords, and temporarily deactivated my social media accounts. I notified my company's human resources department about my marital situation and warned them about potential disturbances, requesting that any attempts by Amanda to contact me at work be directed to security. The storm began the evening Amanda returned from her conference. According to my friend Jackson, who later told me the details, she entered our empty house and initially thought we had been robbed. Then she found the divorce papers and evidence. Her first reaction was confusion, sending a barrage of texts asking where I was and what was happening. These quickly escalated to phone calls that I never received due to the blocking. "Saul, call me right now. What is going on? Where are you? We need to talk about this. Please just answer your phone. Whatever you think happened, you are wrong. This is not funny. You cannot just disappear. Call me back. I cannot believe you are doing this without even talking to me. This is cruel and childish." When she realized I had changed my number, her panic intensified. She reached out to every friend and family member we shared, creating a story about being worried about my mental health after I suddenly disappeared. Many believed her initially reaching out to me with concerned messages on my work email, the only contact point I had maintained. 2 days after her return, Amanda made her first appearance at my workplace. She arrived tearful and distraught, telling the receptionist she desperately needed to speak with me about a family emergency. Security had been briefed and denied her entry, but allowed her to remain in the lobby while they contacted me. From my second-floor window, I watched as she paced anxiously below. Even from that distance, I could see her performance for the benefit of onlookers. The vulnerable posture, the occasional dabbing of eyes with tissues, the beseeching looks towards security. When it became clear I would not come down, she eventually left, but not before creating a scene visible to several coworkers. Her second workplace visit 3 days later was far less composed. She arrived during lunch hour, when the lobby was busiest, screaming about abandonment and cruelty. "You do not get to throw away 5 years without a conversation," she shouted, as security escorted her outside. "You owe me an explanation." The irony of her demanding an explanation was not lost on me. With direct contact, impossible, Amanda launched a carefully crafted social media campaign. She posted lengthy emotional accounts of being suddenly ghosted by her husband, without warning or reason. After 5 years of what I thought was a happy marriage, I came home to find him gone. No note, no explanation, just divorce papers. Who does this to someone they once loved? Her posts conveniently omitted any mention of James or her year-long affair. She positioned herself as the bewildered victim of inexplicable cruelty. Mutual friends began taking sides, with most initially rallying around Amanda. Her performance was convincing, and my silence made her version the only one being heard. She even contacted my parents, sharing her manipulated version of events. "I am worried about Saul," she told them. "This behavior is so unlike him. Has he spoken to you? Has he seemed depressed lately?" My mother called me, immediately confused and concerned. "Son, what is happening? Amanda says you disappeared without a word. She sounds devastated." "Mom, did she mention her affair with her boss?" I asked quietly. The silence on the other end told me everything I needed to know about what Amanda had shared. "I have evidence," I continued. "Over a year of messages between them. Plans to wait until after my promotion to divorce me for a better settlement. I will email you copies if you want to see them." "Oh, Saul," my mother breathed. "No, I do not need to see them. I believe you." Not everyone was as understanding as my parents. For weeks, I received messages from friends and acquaintances judging my actions without knowing the full story. "You cannot just ghost your wife, man. That is ice cold. Whatever she did, she deserves a conversation at least. This is not how adults handle problems. She is absolutely destroyed. Is that what you wanted?" The social fallout intensified as Amanda's carefully edited story spread through our social circle and beyond. My coworkers whispered when I passed. Neighbors from our old neighborhood sent judgmental texts. Even my best friend Jackson initially called me pathologically avoidant before learning the truth. Multiple intervention attempts followed. Friends tried to arrange meetings where Amanda and I could talk. My sister suggested mediation. A mutual friend actually showed up at my new apartment, having gotten my address from my parents, pleading with me to be the bigger person and give Amanda closure. I maintained complete silence toward Amanda, despite tremendous pressure. Not a text, not a call, not a message passed through intermediaries. The only communication occurred through our respective attorneys, and even then I instructed my lawyer to keep it strictly to legal necessities. There were moments of self-doubt during those first few weeks of isolation. Late at night, in my Spartan new apartment, I sometimes questioned my approach. Was I being needlessly cruel? Would a confrontation have provided better closure for both of us? Was I running away rather than facing problems head-on? Each time these thoughts surfaced, I reread the emails between Amanda and James. Their calculated betrayal, their mockery of my trust, their cold financial planning around my career milestones. Each reading reinforced my conviction that complete disconnection was the only path that preserved my dignity and denied them the satisfaction of seeing my pain. 6 months passed, bringing significant changes to my life. I had settled into my new apartment, gradually transforming it from a blank slate into a home that reflected my personality without any traces of Amanda. Plants filled the windows. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with titles I had always wanted to read, but never found time for during my marriage. The promotion I had been working toward came through, despite the workplace drama. My supervisor, Tim, pulled me aside after announcing it. "Your personal situation could have derailed many people," he said. "But you stayed focused and delivered exceptional work throughout. That shows true professionalism." Weekly therapy sessions helped me process the betrayal trauma. My therapist, Sarah, specialized in recovery from infidelity and helped me understand that my ghosting response, while unconventional, was a valid self-protective measure, given the circumstances. "You chose a clean break over messy closure," she observed during one session. "For someone who values clarity and honesty as much as you do, discovering that level of deception made traditional resolution impossible." I developed a new hobby in photography, joining weekend hiking groups that explored trails throughout New England, capturing landscapes. This not only rebuilt my confidence, but also provided a new social circle unconnected to my previous life with Amanda. These new friends knew me only as Saul the photographer, not Saul the man who ghosted his cheating wife. The divorce finalized with minimal direct contact. Our relatively short marriage and lack of children simplified the legal process. The evidence of infidelity and financial calculation did impact the settlement, resulting in a more favorable outcome for me than might have otherwise occurred. Throughout the proceedings, we communicated exclusively through our attorneys. Amanda's attempts to contact me gradually decreased, as reality set in. The frantic daily messages became weekly, then monthly, and finally stopped altogether. Her social media campaign lost momentum as people moved on to newer dramas. Several friends who had initially taken her side reached out to apologize after learning more details from those I had confided in. I had no idea, my old friend Greg wrote. I should have told you when I suspected something was happening. I am sorry I was not a better friend. The final confrontation occurred unexpectedly at Taylor and Michael's wedding reception. Taylor had been my friend since college, and despite my divorce, he had insisted I attend. I nearly declined when I learned Amanda would be there too, but decided I could not keep avoiding social events forever. We had successfully avoided each other throughout the ceremony and cocktail hour. But during dinner, as guests mingled between tables, Amanda approached me directly. She had clearly been drinking, her movements slightly unsteady, as she pulled out the empty chair beside me. Finally, she said loud enough for nearby guests to hear, "You cannot run away when we are in the same room." I remained silent, taking a sip of water and looking toward the dance floor. Nothing to say. After destroying me publicly, after throwing away 5 years without even a conversation, her voice grew louder, drawing attention from surrounding tables. "Everyone deserves an explanation, Saul. Even you must know that." Several of our old friends were watching now, the uncomfortable spectators to the confrontation they had long anticipated. I could feel their judgment, their assumption that my continued silence confirmed some kind of guilt or cruelty. Slowly, I removed my phone from my pocket, opened my email, and found the folder of screenshots I had kept. I placed the phone in front of her, showing an email where she and James discussed their planning around my promotion. "Is that the explanation you want to discuss publicly?" I asked quietly, my first words to her in 6 months. Her face drained of color as she recognized the message. "Where did you get that? You had no right to read my emails. You left them open on our shared laptop. Just like you left your affair open for friends to see while gaslighting me about being paranoid." I scrolled to another message. "Would you like to explain this one to everyone, where you called our marriage boring? Or this one where you laughed about the bracelet I gave you?" Tears filled her eyes, but unlike the performance, tears from her workplace visits, these seemed genuine. "It was not supposed to happen," she whispered. "James and I had started as just a connection, and then you calculated exactly how to maximize what you could take from me. While betraying me for over a year, I finished for her. With the help of friends who knew and said nothing." Several people nearby shifted uncomfortably guilty knowledge, evident on their faces. "I am sorry," she said, the words seemingly forced from her. "I was selfish and terrible. But disappearing like that, cutting me off completely, it was so cold." I looked at her directly for the first time. "I do not hate you, Amanda. I actually feel sorry for you. But you were not entitled to closure or explanation or a chance to manipulate me further." The emails were all the explanation needed. I nodded politely to our stunned audience and walked outside for some air. Later, Jackson joined me on the venue's terrace. "That was something else," he said, leaning against the railing beside me. "For what it is worth, I think everyone finally understands why you did what you did." I did not do it for their understanding. "I know." He paused. "Laura was asking about you earlier. She is here with her brother. Might be worth talking to her." Laura was a graphic designer I had met through work, someone who had shown interest, but whom I had kept at a friendly distance, unsure if I was ready for anything new. That night we shared a dance and exchanged numbers, agreeing to coffee the following week. The relationship with Laura developed slowly, tentatively. I was transparent about my past and my trust issues. She appreciated the honesty and showed patience as I worked through my remaining hesitations. 6 months later, we were officially dating, taking things one day at a time with clear communication as our foundation. My friendships underwent similar, careful reconstruction. Those who had initially judged my actions without knowing the full story had to earn back my trust. Some relationships proved unsalvageable, particularly with those who had known about the affair and remained silent. Others grew stronger through the crisis, with deeper appreciation for honesty and loyalty. My career advanced steadily, with a renewed passion for work that had been lacking in my final years with Amanda. The promotion created opportunities to lead development teams and mentor junior developers, roles that gave me purpose beyond code itself. More importantly, I developed a new perspective on relationships. Marriage was no longer an idealized state based on my parents' model, but something that required genuine honesty rather than performance or illusion. I became more attuned to authenticity in all my connections, valuing substance over appearance. The experience taught me that silence can sometimes be more powerful than arguments. Not everyone deserves explanation or closure, particularly those who have systematically violated trust. Self-protection is not selfishness when facing calculated betrayal. True strength sometimes means walking away decisively rather than engaging in futile confrontations. I learned to trust my instincts, despite gaslighting attempts that made me doubt my own perceptions. The red flags I had ignored were actually my intuition trying to break through my denial, and I promised myself never to silence that inner voice again. Painful as it was, the experience enabled necessary growth that might never have happened otherwise. I discovered resilience I did not know I possessed. I found that I could rebuild from scratch and create something authentic and meaningful from the ashes of betrayal. The greatest wisdom came in recognizing that peace comes from within rather than through others' validation. The initial judgment from friends and acquaintances had stung, but their opinions ultimately mattered far less than my own self-respect and integrity. Today, 2 years after walking away, I feel genuine gratitude for the experience that forced me to discover my own worth. The freedom I found after escaping that toxic relationship opened doors to possibilities I had never imagined while trapped in the illusion of my marriage. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice that others criticized but you knew was right for your well-being? Share your experience in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please hit that like button and subscribe to hear more real-life experiences. Consider sharing this video with someone who might be struggling with betrayal or difficult relationships. Sometimes the stories of others help us make sense of our own challenges. Thank you for listening. And remember that protecting your peace is never wrong, no matter what others might say.